The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook, download their top-rated app, use promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Body Bio, better health through science. Get 20% off Elight or anything else at their site with promo code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. And of course, Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter. Get the Ricky Playoff Pack right now. The laser engraved bottle, the glass, the recipe card at statesidevodka.com. Go to the spirits section. On today's pod, the Sixers have another chance to wrap up the number 1 seed and do not do it in I would say, fantastic fashion. They lost. Joel Embiid gets a big spread from Ramona Shelburne on ESPN. We'll relitigate the Kawhi shot and more. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with the only remaining Sixers fan on this podcast. That is Mike Levin. What's up?
That's right. Well, you're
down to
wearing a
1.
Knicks jersey. You are running out of Philadelphia.
Yep.
You are moving to Brooklyn with JJ Redick.
No Brooklyn.
This is where it all happens. The
Yep.
dissolution of the process. We were the
Yep.
last. You thought it was Embiid, but it was actually you. It was you living in Delco.
Yeah.
Now you're gone, and you're leaving for good, and it's going to be me and CJ just agreeing about stuff. What's the point, Ethan?
Yeah, seriously. I will not be living in Brooklyn. I'll tell you that. I cannot tell you the number of you should sublet from JJ tweets
Well, you'll be
I
living in
got.
his trunk.
Yeah.
Housing is expensive there, so there's a good.
He's
knows
got a
couple of good
cage.
deals, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that game from the Sixers, I sort of wonder why Embiid and Simmons and Harris even played. You know, with as bad as Embiid looked to start, they came out with just no, almost like. Just were out like wanted from the Heat from the very beginning of it, and with another game tomorrow, they need to they don't need to win one more. You know, Milwaukee could lose one, but it would be nice to win one and get the get the guys some rest. But now they all got to play again tomorrow, so just a sort of a disappointing effort. I thought if they were going to play in this game, I just thought they would have come out a little bit stronger than they did.
Yeah, I mean, Joel's sick with some type of flu. They're saying a non-COVID illness. He didn't look good. He wasn't doing much
terrible
on either end. The most life he looked like he had was when he was about to fight Trevor Ariza, which was an interesting pick. Just looked winded. Got out jumped and out rebounded by Bam when he was in there, and then Doc eventually was like, This isn't happening. It was bad. It was a bad game. They were out hustled and just never made a run. They kind of, I guess the closest run they had was the last like 2.5 minutes when it was B-ball Paul time, as is usually the case. But it was it was a really bad game. I don't necessarily care so much about rest because there's going to be a week from the end of the season until the first game of the first round due to the play-in tournament. But now they have to fly home and play on the second half of a back-to-back. Orlando also has to do that. They're playing right now, or just lost to the Hawks by a lot. So there's not much of an advantage there, but it's Orlando, man. They're the Magic. There's a lot of history we have with the Magic, none of it good. It is at
least it's in Philly. Oh, that's a positive.
Yeah, it's like a used car lot of like a museum of former relationships living on the Magic, whether it's on the sideline or on the court. Iggy Brasdeikis in the rotation. Chasen Randall.
Oh my God, is he?
Process era, yeah. And playing well. Good for him. But it's just you don't want to count down, and you wouldn't want to lose 2 games to the Magic and have like Miami beating Milwaukee as the reason why you get the 1 seed. Like what a horrible limp in that would be. It was just a bad game, and they didn't play anybody good for a while. They haven't played anybody at full strength in a really long time, and Miami took it to them the whole game, and it wasn't. The offense looked slow. They looked indecisive. Embiid was getting doubled in the post, and he just looked like he couldn't do much with it. Just not good. They look really, really slow against, I've talked about this before, and we've talked about this with Tobias, who I do think has improved as a passer, and Embiid, who I also think has improved as a passer. But there's still not enough good passers on the team. And especially when their best passer, Simmons, is just kind of standing there underneath the basket, rarely getting past 2. It just feels like so often against either a zone or a double team, like a well double teamed, a team that double teams well with length. It just seems like they just get sludgy as hell. And over the last few months, guys have retreated back to their norm of not shooting threes quickly. Only Korkmaz really does. Seth is an excellent shooter who frequently passes up good shots. Tobias is what he is. Embiid goes through stretches when he wants to. Like, it's just not enough guys that are just willing to shoot quickly, aside from Korkmaz and I would say Danny, who played. Danny and Tobias are the only guys that played well. I guess Maxey played well as well. But just like they keep losing they're going to lose the 3 battle to almost every team in the playoffs. And they have to make up for that by being good in other arees. And tonight they weren't, and they didn't really try on defense, and they didn't try that much on offense, and they didn't get out in transition, and just all of it was bad. So maybe it's just one game, but they haven't played it. It's not like they've had any great statement wins in a while. So
no, they've played pretty bad they've not pretty bad, but like, and I don't.
They've gotten through it, I would say, the regular season, which is fine.
Yes.
And they're probably gonna end up the 1 seed, and that's great. But they're not an effortless team. Like, they need to be displaying effort and IQ and everything, and not exactly. You're not going to go into the playoffs, even if they are the 1 seed. You're not going to go into the playoffs feeling like we're playing our best basketball, because they're not.
Yeah. You don't want to limp into the playoffs, and I understand when you're going against teams that are not, that are resting their 4 best players all the time. Like, it can lull you into a sleep, and then not playing for 5 or 6 days afterwards. It's certainly not optimal. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not optimal. And you're right. The offense ended up looking like offenses we've seen before when, the Heat are a good defensive team who played them smart, who doubled and fronted Embiid a lot, made it hard to get him the ball in a good spot. And that's it. If you had to bet your life on a 7-game series between the Sixers and the Heat, who would you bet on?
The Sixers. The Sixers. I mean, like, the Heat have been a pretty bad team for most of the year. Jimmy's played excellent. He's had a great year. Bam's great. I'm a big Bam fan. Even as good as Bam is defensively and as good as his like offensive game has grown, they played well all year, and they just like aren't that good. There's just not enough good players on the team. And they hit shots tonight. Like, the Sixers played bad, but Miami also did hit a ton of shots. And they also got all the offensive rebounds when they didn't hit shots, so it makes it even easier on them. But I think the Sixers are a better team, and I think that they just need to do a better job, and Doc needs to do a better job of setting themselves up for success and not allowing it to get into the sludgy, nobody's moving, everyone's playing against, like the ball's just like sitting where it is. It's very frustrating watching them just like hold the ball over their head in the zone and being like, okay, where am I going? And just watching nothing develop, watching the clock tick down, and all of a sudden it's like a Tobias 19-foot step back, and it's just like, guys, this can't be the first time you've seen this. Like it just they need to have a counter to that, and they didn't all game long.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not think Jimmy Butler would allow the Heat to lose to the Sixers.
How can you think that and not think Jimmy Butler is that good?
I didn't say I didn't think Jimmy Butler was that good.
I said in the past. Of course you have.
No. Look, we can either talk about this for real, where you know what I'm being serious about or what I'm not, or we can talk about like in this way where you get petulant with me and act like you don't know when I'm being serious.
You've definitely in the past said that you don't think Jimmy is that good. You don't think he's like a championship level player. You have said that.
No. What I specifically said, and it's all recorded. It's all recorded, Mike. What I've specifically said is that he cannot be the primary offensive player on a championship team. He can't be the best player on a championship team. And until they win a championship, like just because I think he can beat the Sixers, a team who like still does not have one perimeter player who can do what even Butler can do, or Goran Dragic can do, or even what fucking Kendrick Nunn can do. Like they have a perimeter player who in crunch time can handle the ball. He is, but I don't think the Sixers are some like unbeatable juggernaut. Like I don't think Jimmy Butler would certainly beat any great team, but I don't think that he would allow them to lose to the Sixers. I just don't. Like, that's it. It doesn't mean that I think he's a Hall of Famer. He would be the second best player on the Sixers, but he's the second best player on the Heat. But I don't think they're a championship team, but I don't think they would lose to the Sixers. I just don't.
You don't count, if the Sixers got to a championship, you wouldn't say that that's a championship team?
No, we've been through this. A team that wins a champion, there are teams that have been to the finals that, like, I would not classify as championship teams. You either, like, a championship team is a team that's won a championship. Like, I can't even, I think if you asked 100 people on the street, what is a championship team, they would say a team that won a championship.
Do you think Embiid can be the best player of a championship team?
Yes, absolutely. But Embiid is arguably like has been the best player in the league this year. Like, I don't think anybody's making that argument for Jimmy Butler.
But you don't think he can beat Miami in a playoff series?
Well, the difference is that Embiid is a center and Butler is not. And Embiid can't bring the ball up every time. Like, I don't think Embiid can be the best player on a championship team without another great perimeter player. You know, but he can be the best player on the team. But as far as being like the primary offensive player, you need a really good perimeter player. I've been pretty consistent about this. And you would agree that Joel Embiid is better than Jimmy Butler, right?
Yeah. You and I just disagree about what I think a lot of teams could get to the championship and be a championship level team. And I think that Jimmy's great. I've always thought that Jimmy was great. I just thought that when he was here, you weren't that into him. And then when he left, part of it was wanting him, choosing what was here against him, whatever it was. So I guess I don't know what's a bit and what's not, because I didn't think he was very good, and so I thought.
But I did. Like, if you read everything I wrote, like ever, it was, even when I said I didn't want them to trade for him. I said he is a very good player that contributes to winning. He is a very good player. I said his problem is going to be. This is all in words on the internet. I said his problem is going to be that he wants to be the primary ball handler, and it's not going to work here because they have Ben. And I said he considers himself a point guard. He's referred to himself as a point guard several times. He has the same issue our point guard has, where he continues to call himself a point guard, even though he's not. But I said that it's not going to work. And he blew up everywhere he went. And he came here, and because they were committed to Ben being the point guard, it didn't work. Like, it's exactly what happened. There was plenty of hyperbole when he left about that he stinks, but I thought he was on the wrong end of his prime. But the biggest problem that I said is that he's gonna want to be the primary ball handler, and Ben didn't want it, and he didn't want it, and they chose Ben over Jimmy, which I thought at the time was the right decision. But I think in retrospect, it was probably the wrong decision. You said the same thing. You said the same thing at the beginning of this year or the end of last year that picking Ben over Jimmy was the wrong thing. Like, you said it on the pod. Did you still agree with that?
I wasn't talking about that. It seemed the failure to compute for me was how I thought that you felt about Jimmy Butler next to they can't beat him in a playoff series. That's all. But
I've said this, but it's not the first time I've said it.
Okay.
It's not.
All right. I thought that Jimmy was good, and the fact that he hit 3 threes in the first quarter is one of the most spiteful things I've ever seen in my life. It was a magical journey of spite. Guy hasn't taken threes all year and just goes and does it. It's like wakes up Brett Brown from a 6-month nap just to tell him he's hitting threes in his face again. And it was fun to watch Jimmy and Ben play against each other while the game was not out of hand. And I would be interested to see that in a playoff series, because there's a lot of ego there. There's certainly a lot of bitterness between the two of them.
Who do you think would get the better of who? Who would you rather have in a playoff series?
I think they're different players. I think Jimmy would not do an excellent job offensively against Ben. I think Ben would do a great job covering him and making it hard on him, because he's faster than Jimmy and isn't. Jimmy does a good job of using his physicality against other smaller players that can keep up with him. So I think that it'd be a good matchup on that end. And Ben obviously is not the primary guy on the other end. And I think even Tobias covered Jimmy for a while, and I thought did a pretty nice job on him. But
who would you rather have though in a playoff series?
In this year's playoff series?
In a playoff series this year, who would you rather have?
I think Jimmy's a better player. I've said that. I think I've said that always. I like Jimmy. I think he's great. I wish that it worked out here. But I think in the context of these two teams, I do think the Sixers are a better team. I think they have the best player by a lot. And I think the Sixers have a better, if Doc can set up the offense in a way that, and I don't know that he can, but if he can set up the offense in a way that makes it easier on Embiid and makes it easier on those guys to get easy buckets, then the Sixers can stop Jimmy way easier than the Heat can stop Joel. And so I would like to see it. I think Doc has gotten very stubborn in his ways as far as how the offense runs, and I don't see him making many in-game adjustments. Maybe we're towards the end of the season, and it's a level of let's just get to the end kind of thing, and not reveal all of his cards that he's going to play in the playoffs. Who knows? But this looked like a similar Sixers team to the helpless ones in the past, and they're too good for that. They have too much good shooting for that, and I think they're better than the team they showed tonight, but they certainly look like shit.
Mike, I have a quiz for you. Are you prepared?
What we got?
What sport do Nate Diaz and Michael Chandler play?
Not even a guess.
Well, the point is for you to guess.
Lacrosse.
No, they are UFC fighters. Were you aware of that? You obviously weren't aware of it. This weekend, UFC 262, huge big names on UFC 262. The best place to bet on that is the official sports betting partner of the UFC, our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. The good news is that even if you don't know what you're talking about with UFC, DraftKings is taking care of you anyway. You put a bet on the main event fighter that you think will win, no matter which one, and they will give you 100 to 1 odds on that fighter. 100 to 1 odds. Sort of close to the odds that the Sixers have of beating the Heat in the playoffs if they play them. Very, very close. 100 to 1. That's right. You bet $1 on select fighters, and if they win, you get $100. It's the best way to bet. DraftKings Sportsbook, best app, best people. And if you don't want to bet UFC, that's cool. The odds have gotten shorter and shorter for the championship. They're now equal to the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference, trailing only the Brooklyn Nets. So if you don't want to bet on UFC, bet on basketball, bet on baseball, bet on hockey. Safe, secure, reliable. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on a main card fighter to win. Place your bet and watch the fists fly this weekend. That's code RTRS to turn $1 into $100 on select main card fighters for a limited time. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, I would be nervous banking on the guy who, in Doc Rivers, who has gotten famous for stubbornly not adjusting to things in the playoffs, to all of a sudden be hiding his secret weapons until the playoffs. You know, I think it's a little nerve-wracking. So again, like once the crowds are more important and it's the playoffs and it's for real, I think they'll see a different Sixers team. I just worry about the last 3 weeks and then the final week sort of lulling them to sleep. And even there's an email that asked about it. Even the Wizards, not that they'll lose to the Wizards, but I think they could certainly be in for a rude game one awakening going up against a team that would have had to, do something over to like actually work hard over the last 2 weeks to get where they are, and then win play-in stuff to go against them in the first game. So, but I think eventually they'll get a wake-up call and then they'll be fine. I would not want to face the Heat in the second round. I think it is much, much, much more preferable to face the Knicks or the Hawks in the second round, certainly the Hawks. And they could have helped that by beating them tonight, but they didn't. So, did you read the interview with? I always feel like every time there's these national Sixers things, it's an article full of stuff that I thought I already knew. There were some good quotes in the Ramona Shelburne article, but that's sort of where it stopped for me. Did you find anything in there particularly intriguing?
Yeah, I thought that Ramona Shelburne did a nice job of indicating like how Joel has changed over the course of his career, especially as a dad now. I think like wanting to be good for his kid, and I thought the line about Joel's dad smiling all the time now was cool. The fact that he like never saw that when Joel was growing up. I thought Ramon did a good job of like showing the humanity there, and like of like a generational thing, which is cool. And I thought it was nice to see that, that Joel is giving Doc credit, regardless of whoever is getting credit. Joel is giving Doc credit for challenging him to get in better shape so that the rest of the team takes it on as a challenge as well. And I think that Brett for years was saying that it's Joel and Ben's team and it'll be up to them how far they go. But I think it probably just required a non-Brett Brown messenger to fully convey that to them, whether it's because Doc's won a championship before or whatever. But it seems like they've, starting with Joel, taken everything a lot more seriously, and not just practicing hard and getting your body in shape, but also like caring about like the team concept. And I think that that's evident this year more than ever.
I'm glad that he did it this year because they certainly seem to make a bigger commitment to him in the offseason. And I thought the offseason specifically was about Embiid, was about the organization telling him that the team was about him. And I don't think that they had always done that. And I thought that was a specific effort by the Sixers to try to get the most out of him and make him want to be here. Just the designing the team the way they designed it, doing the best they can, even going after Harden to a certain extent, I thought was that too. But it is nice to see him, face up that challenge, between getting in shape and working on his game and all of those certain things and seeing that player. I do think it's funny to see how much he loves Drew Hanlon, given the Drew Hanlon history with Fultz. And Embiid just fucking loves him. Like Drew Hanlon's basically his personal coach. He gives Hanlon a lot of credit for Embiid getting to where he is, and Hanlon has the last 8 years of Sixers has a lot of characters that have come in and out, but Hanlon is one that has I think a funny two-faced story to him.
Yeah, I mean, the Fultz thing is always going to be a mystery. I don't know if Hanlon is partially to blame or not at all to blame or whatever it is. We certainly were blaming him when it was happening because it was nonsensical. But people seem to like Drew Hanlon. Jason Tatum seems to like Drew Hanlon a lot. Mm-hmm. Embiid. That's I guess when you're, just like the GM that brought him here, there's hits and misses. And even when you're a personal coach, you have guys that you want to lift up and say, this is my guy, and guys that you're, maybe take off the website. I think probably, I don't think I personally ever went after Drew Hanlon too much because I don't think he had anything to do with what Fultz went wrong. I think us as a collective probably owe him an apology. I think Drew Hanlon probably had very little to do with what went wrong with Markelle Fultz. And if he has anything to do with what happened to Joel Embiid, I think maybe a card or a basket of cheeses and fruits or something like that. I think an apology to Drew Hanlon is probably in order. It seems like he knows what he's doing, I guess is what I would say. Yeah. I mean, I think it was just I think he didn't fix Markelle, and he was he talked a big game about how he could. Now I'm not saying anyone could have, but he was certainly out there saying he could, and then he didn't. So I've apologized to Tobias enough. I don't need Drew Hanlon on the apology list.
I think part of his bit is to blow the players up on social media too. Sure. He did.
Not the only one that does that.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention there's an article that Derek Bodner wrote last week about the transition defense that the Sixers keep struggling with, and it was a good article on The Athletic that you guys should read. And it is a really confounding thing. Obviously, the defense looked horrible tonight, and they just hit shots, which made it even look worse. But it was a nice article about how when you play too slow, maybe he's not slow all the time, but when he's not going full speed, he's pretty slow. Traditional fives, and those guys, Dwight especially, goes after offensive rebounds. You're always just trailing and you're scrambling, and it seems like they don't communicate well, especially, with people trying to get chased down blocks. It just seems like it's a frustrating thing. So I don't know if that's a personnel issue or a coaching issue or just a wrong mix of people, but it just seems like they're always miscommunicating in transition in a way that they really don't in a half-court setting. And whether that's the solution is to try to send fewer offensive rebounders at the ball or play Simmons not in the dunker spot so he can get back and stop breaks or whatever it is, I don't know. But it is you asked me a few months ago what my biggest concern is, and it's the fact that the other team gets easy buckets at transition and sometimes the Sixers don't.
Well, especially if their thing is going to be defense. You know, a team getting easy buckets against them is every one of those that happens. And you said before that they're going to lose basically the 3-point battle in most games. It's hard to win in the NBA when you lose 3-point battles. It's really hard. So, and you know, whether it's a scheme or a personnel issue, you know, I could look at the starting lineup and say, well, it's not a particularly, outside of Simmons, it's not a particularly athletic starting lineup, you know, in terms of getting back and like physically, but it seems like it's whoever's on the court, they have the same trouble. So it almost has to be a scheme issue, right? Like, how could they be that bad at it unless they're doing something wrong? Yeah. It goes back to even when Brown was the coach and they kept scheming it so guys would get those open, you know, the open jumpers, and we're like, hey, like, why do they keep doing this? Why do they keep doing this? It seems like it has to be a decision that they're making. But it's not like they're a great offensive rebounding team either, right? I mean, I don't think that's the issue either. You know, I don't know. Yeah,
maybe it's just a choice. But it's something they definitely have to clean up in the playoffs because both Milwaukee and Brooklyn have a lot of, you know, transition guys that can also pull up quickly in transition, shooters that fly down the wing and are ready to pull. That to me is a bigger problem than this one Miami game that they were just kind of punched in the mouth for. Which, speaking of, I appreciate Dwight getting into a fight with everybody on the court at all times. He kind of got one-upped by Udonis Haslem, who played his first minutes of the season and immediately got ejected. I feel like Dwight should be embarrassed by that more than anything else. Is Dwight suspended for tomorrow's game in Orlando?
Yes,
because they said that it was, and then I thought someone said that it was rescinded, but I don't feel or confident.
Well, if he got a tech, which I thought he did, he's suspended.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that means a little b-ball.
Mike Scott.
It can't be Mike Scott. It just can't. It straight up can't. It can't. He's not.
It's gonna be more Mike Scott, bro.
There's Mike hit a 3 in transition at the end of the game from like 28 feet tonight, and that was nice. But like, there's nothing that Mike Scott is above average at right now. Like, at least during the cashed out season, when he hit that one in the corner against the Nets, he seemed to be like a good to above, at least above average 3-point shooter with a willing trigger, and especially in the corner. And like, he's barely looking still. He's not a good defensive player, not good in transition, not a good passer, not a good rebounder. Like, they can make do with him as a 5 just because they have enough length with like Simmons and Tobias and Embiid, or Simmons, Tobias and Ben. Sorry, Simmons, Tobias, and Matisse. But that's just maybe more like not having a big person in the middle there clogging up the lane. I don't think it's Mike doing anything specifically. It's just, I like Mike. We like Mike. We want him to wear a Ricky shirt in the finals. That's great. But like, he can't play any minutes. He can't. He's not good anymore. I'd rather give Maxey every second that Doc is thinking about playing Mike.
Mike, as you know, there are a lot of things that you can do to stay healthy that are difficult.
Like what?
Eating the right foods, right? Kind of difficult. Getting enough sleep, difficult. Exercise, difficult. Hydration, fucking easy. Easy. It is an easy, important thing you can do, but it's more complicated than you'd think. You see, you can't just drink water and be hydrated. No. Hydration is about electrolytes and water, the proper mix. That's why you get E-Lite from Body Bio. E-Lite is a very simple formula that includes no sugar, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors. No. It has 3 things: sodium, potassium, magnesium. That's all you need. Body Bio, right here in the area, family-owned company. And what's good about them being a smaller company is that when things change in science, as they do quite often, they can change too very quickly, not like a big, annoying company. So E-Lite is easy. All you do is you take a capful of it, you put it in whatever you drink in the morning, do it in the evening, 2 capfuls a day. You'll be better hydrated. What does that mean? You'll have more energy. You'll sleep better. Your immune system will be stronger. For me, I got cramps every time I would run in my feet and my calves and my hamstrings. No longer. All of the cramps are gone. Go to bodybio.com. Use promo code RTRS20 for 20% off Elite. Just give it a try. Elite or anything else at the website. We'll be telling you about their other products coming up soon next week. Body Bio, great company. I'm serious. Hydration, super duper important. Very easy to do. Just get Body Bio's Elite. Again, bodybio.com, promo code RTRS20. If it gets the jersey walking into a game, I think I might take the Mike Scott minutes. I think I might, just for one game. You know, I think I would deal with it for one game to see that jersey again, for him to remember that. The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week, brought to you by Stateside Urban Craft Vodka. The Ricky Playoff Pack with the official drink of the playoffs. Alonzo's price went up, which is Stateside Cranberry Lime. So you get the bottle of Stateside, which is laser engraved with Playoffs 21. It only counts if they win. The recipe card and a rocks glass, one of these. Just go to statesidevodka.com and go to the spirits section. You got to be 21. All right, this comes from 2 comments. Leave a comment on the YouTube. We will perhaps read it on the pod. 2 of them. This comes from Haruto Abe. I never thought I'd go into bereavement because of someone else's hair. So a sad person based on your loss of hair. He missed the flowing locks.
It's still long. It's still flowing. Yeah. It's just not as disgusting.
I think they forget where we came from. You know, you had a very closely cropped haircut, like a normal guy haircut, and you do have long hair now. I wouldn't call this obviously not as long as it was, but I would call this long hair, you know?
Yeah. There's only 3 haircuts, so I had number 1 of the 3 male haircuts. And now I have number 2.
Is one of them Pete Rose, like Mo or whatever?
No, that's off the menu.
And the next one comes from Ross Butler. Now, this was about when we had talked about the Kinetic cargo shorts. What has to be the worst type of clothing? The cargo shorts with the zip on the legs, the hiking saddle, or other? What is the hiking saddle? Like, what is that? Do you know what that is?
No.
So what would you say is the worst type of clothing?
I hesitate to not say the hiking saddle because I can't picture it.
I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
I would say I think dress shoes are terrible. And I think like dress pants with a belt are also terrible.
Oh, I don't mind it. I don't mind that. If it's a comfortable slack, I think there are bad slacks. There's like there's bar mitzvah. There's like your cousin's bar mitzvah slacks that you wear that are you just want to throw away and should be all thrown away in unison. The worst type of clothing.
I mean, I have nice suits. I don't like wearing any of them, to be honest with you.
I don't mind a suit. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't worn enough clothes in the last. I don't have to I don't have to dress nice ever. So when I do, it's like a treat. It's like a costume.
Right.
So I don't really wear any clothes that I don't like.
That you don't like wearing.
Yeah.
I feel that. Lorenzo Brown Mailbag. Writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Send us a basketball and a non-basketball. I thought this was interesting. I don't know if I think it's an interesting question. I don't know if you'll have an opinion on it, but I do think it's an interesting question. Report out today, this was May 6th, indicates that Comcast is thinking of selling the regional sports stations, including the one in Philadelphia. If Comcast sells the sports stations, I don't see them keeping the Flyers in the Wells Fargo Center. The return on investment would be rather poor in this situation. So in this situation, do you see Josh Harris and crew making a play for the Flyers, the Wells Fargo Center, and the sports networks? Such a move would require Harris to flip the Devils in the Prudential Center, but business-wise, owning the Flyers in the arena here is more valuable when combined with the Sixers than the Devils in the Prudential Center. And if such an acquisition occurs, how would it impact the Sixers' operations and the overall Philadelphia landscape?
I don't know. Can you just sell one team and immediately buy their closest rival?
I don't think there's like a rivalry ownership clause, right? I think the NHL would have to approve it. I don't think that HBSE would have a hard time finding a buyer for the Devils because it comes with that arena. I don't think that arena has been quite as fruitful as they think it is because it's hard to route concerts there because New York and Philly are so close. So I don't think it would change the landscape of anything in Philly. What it would do is get them their new arena. Like if Harris doesn't have to deal with anybody else to sort of hold the city up, like I think it makes him more powerful in getting an arena. So that would be the one thing. I don't think it affects Philly sports all that much otherwise, except for Josh Harris being the most important owner in Philadelphia would be. Well, is owning the Sixers and Flyers more important than owning the Eagles? Probably not. Yeah, I guess not. He would own half the teams, though. I mean, that's something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It does, to your point, it does sound complicated to just sell one hockey team and buy another one, like within, moments of each other.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you could
Seems
do
like it wouldn't be
a
allowed.
3-team trade. Doesn't seem like it's quite as easy as that. Like just sending in some salary.
Right. This comes from John. His basketball question: can we please not play Anthony Tolliver for the rest of the season? I don't think we'll see any important Anthony Tolliver minutes. He looks pretty dead.
He does look pretty dead.
Yeah. And his non-basketball question is weather overrated? I think it is.
I don't. I mean, I lived in Ithaca for too long to say that it's overrated. Like it is prohibitive in some places. And so the fact that to live in a place where it's not prohibitive, I think is generally good. Speaking of Anthony Tolliver and Mike Scott, they did sign Gary Clark to the second two-way spot. Gary Clark is in that mold. He went to Cincinnati, one of my guys in that draft. And I really like him as a future small ball five. He like takes almost all of his shots are threes. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's willing, and that's important. And he's a good defensive player, and I think a switchy defensive player. And I'd love to see next year him get a chance at some backup 5 minutes with B-Ball Paul to see if they can, because he had a pretty decent block rate at Cincinnati, and I would like to see that continue. For a stretch in Houston, he had the same thing. Darryl got him in Houston, and so getting him back, he believes in him. I think there's something there, and he's one of my guys. So I miss Mason Jones. I'm intrigued by Mason Jones. I want to see where he ends up, but Gary Clark for the future might be a better fit.
Meaningful playoff minute? He can play in the playoffs,
I wanted him to
right?
play tonight. I hope he plays in one of the Orlando games. I'd like to see it, but I'm not willing to say meaningful playoff minutes. It's a little too late in the season to do that. But although Greg Monroe started, so maybe, who knows?
This comes from JB. Basketball question yesterday. This is now 2 days ago. Was Kawhi shot day? So naturally, the video showed up on my Instagram and Twitter feed of Kawhi hitting the quadruple doink. My question for you is, do you think Ben would have had a better shot defending/blocking Kawhi than Joe did if Joe hadn't bumped Ben off?
Yeah, probably. Just because of a quicker reaction, but also Joel's longer and more physically imposing. I think they both were there. They were both contesting it, and I didn't watch it yesterday. I saw a bunch of people post about it, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't allow that into my life. But yeah, I mean, I've watched that clip so many times. He walked at the beginning, and all the stuff we already know.
Non-basketball question: as a kid, did either of you not like your first name, and what name did you want to be called instead?
Well,
I think this is like a pretty regular thing.
Did you go by Spike as a child?
No, it wasn't until college, until I was instructed to have an on-air name by my college program director. Hello, Harry Waring, who works in Long Island now. It wasn't until then. I did not like Brett as a kid. I didn't, mostly because I knew that it was also a girl's name. And, as a young boy, like, you want a name that is a boy's name. So that was that. But I don't think I ever demanded being called anything else. Did you?
I was bored by Mike pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a very common name.
Were you always Mike, or were you Michael when you were younger?
No, always Mike.
Okay.
Like I'll write Michael on my scripts and stuff, like, but like conversationally, I've never told anyone to call me Michael. I'm sure I had really dumb names. I'm sure I like tried to go by like Junior for like a year or something like that, or like Trey. I don't know, some stupid shit.
Trey is so perfect. It had to be Trey.
It might definitely. I thought about Trey. I don't know if I ever actually asked anyone to call me that, because it certainly no one in my life would have. But no, yeah.
Call Me Trey sounds like the title of your autobiography.
No, it wouldn't be that. But
No?
I could see. I mean, I could. As an 8-year-old, like going by Trey for a year, like that sounds like something I would do. I think that if I had tried it even once, then my friends would not let me hear the end of it. So I mean, I had a nickname. My friends would occasionally on the basketball court call me Sonic, because when I would like take a bad shot or turn the ball over, I would almost like with like a TJ frustration level, very red faced, try to get the ball back and almost like sort of circle around them over and over again. Just because I was pissed off at myself.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that was like a regular nickname type of thing.
Trey, I love it. The only other nickname I had was Turtle when I was in Little League. The coach, we were running sprints once, and he said I looked like a midget in a turtle race. And then somehow I got called Turtle. Yeah, like, why am I not midget? You know, like I shouldn't have been Turtle. Anyway, this comes from Isaac. Basketball question. Longtime listener here. I'm a diehard Timberwolves fan, but I love the Ricky and the Sixers are my second favorite team. How do you feel about second favorite teams? I think they're okay, as long as they're not rivals. You good with that?
Sure.
Second favorite team?
Why not?
Yeah. Here's my basketball question. I know you guys dislike both, the irony, dislike both Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think we've ever said anything about Towns, have we? Who is more overrated?
You've definitely said that Towns is a loser. You've definitely said that.
Yeah. Recently, I said he seems like he's a loser. I think he's definitely overrated. I definitely think Towns is overrated.
I don't
Butler
think at this point that he is overrated. I think that he.
You don't think he's rated highly
I think
anymore.
he's like.
Yeah.
People know that he's like a good stats on a bad team. I think there's still like he's clearly very talented, and I would like to see what a good team around Karl Anthony Towns is like, but it seems like the kind of person you would put there is Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy definitely hates him, which is fun to watch. I don't think you can say that Jimmy is overrated or a faker after he took his team to the championship last year. I think he's pretty properly rated. So I think for Jimmy to go, for what happened in Minnesota to happen, and then for Jimmy to go to a couple different teams and succeed more there as Minnesota keeps floundering. Although they look good, and I'm impressed by Minnesota, and I'm impressed by Anthony Edwards and how when they're healthy, they've been giving teams some trouble this last month or so. So I might be wagering on a Minnesota over bet next season.
Mike, earlier we were talking about being healthy, all the different things you can do to be healthy, and I mentioned sleep. Sleep is important. Now, we don't do anything for sleep for humans. We only do it for dogs. We care more about dogs. Why is your dog sleeping on some piece of shit bed? Ask yourself that. You went to the pet store, you're like, oh, that looks comfortable. It's not comfortable. It might be comfortable to rest your head on for a little bit. It's not comfortable to sleep on. No. Get the only dog bed that is engineered by experts to support your dog's joints so your dog is healthier. That's right. Your dog's joints get creaky. They sleep on bad beds. If you slept on a bad bed, you'd wake up, you'd feel like crap. You slept on the floor, you'd wake up, you'd feel like crap. It's no different for your dog. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. bigbarker.com/Ricky. Get the Big Barker dog bed. Get the processed pup patches. Make sure your dog is sleeping on a bed. Don't have your dog sleep on another dog. Have your dog sleep on a bed that is going to keep your dog healthy and happy. Up to 80% of dogs over 50 pounds develop arthritis as they age. They do that, they're going to need more support. Keeps young dogs vibrant for longer, keeps old dogs comfortable, small, big, whatever, a big barker for any size. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. Try it for a full year. You don't like it, your dog doesn't like it, they will give you a full refund and pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Anthony Edwards is a funny guy too. Yeah. He's like he's probably had 5 good post-game press conference or Zoom quotes this year, and he's clearly pretty explosive and a good. I love seeing a good like 2-guard. You get so few pure kind of 2-guards, and he seems like a pure 2-guard.
I think there was a long time where that was the case, but I don't think in the last. I think there's plenty of good 2-guards at this point. I think Zach LaVine, Brad Beal. I had another one.
Middleton,
Devin Booker. Like I feel like there's a lot of just like good type of scoring 2-guards. Donovan Mitchell's kind of a scoring 2-guard, even though he handles the ball a lot. I think there's a lot of like throwback type 2-guards around the league.
Non-basketball question. I work at a public library, and I'm curious, what have your guys' experiences been with public libraries? Library. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Always appreciate a bathroom. First things first.
Yeah.
Good place to go from time to time when you need it. There should be public bathrooms just all over, because especially in places when they're driving around, I need to pee or other stuff. So sometimes you gotta go. There should be more of those for everybody. I have regrettably not spent as much time in a public library, not peeing or pooping, as I should.
The library I spent a lot of time in was the Middletown Library, right off of in between 352 and Baltimore Pike. Spent a lot of time in that library. Checked out a lot of books. Don't know how many of them I read. I was never a big reader, but I did like the library. I know a lot of people for a while were like checking their email at the library. That was like a reason for the library. I remember, but that wasn't a public library. That was my school library. I spent a lot of time in the college library. It's weird. Do the colleges even have libraries anymore?
Yeah, for sure.
Seems like a waste of time or a waste of space, I guess. This comes from Chris. Hi, Spike and Mike. I have 1 basketball question and 2 non-basketball questions. One of the non-basketball questions is more interesting, but also pretty gross. So I added the second one just in case. Number 1, how do you guys feel about Russell Westbrook? With him passing the triple-double record and a potential first-round matchup with the Sixers, I've been thinking about this a lot. He seems to be a very polarizing player, with some listing him as one of the greatest of all time, others not even considering him elite. Although I've always enjoyed watching him play and have a ton of respect for his game, I think he's just outside the top 5 point guards of his generation. Steph Curry and Chris Paul are better. Dame Lillard, Kyrie Irving, Kyle Lowry, I would also rank ahead of him. What are your thoughts? I basically approach this as if point guard were ending the NBA draft and we already know how their careers turn out. Who would I draft?
That's a different situation because Westbrook is so situation dependent. Like, I think you could plug Kyle Lowry on any team, and you'd have a role for him, whether he's controlling the offense or just sort of spotting up and doing the little stuff. Westbrook, we talked about this I think about a month ago, and we were I think in a Westbrook Simmons conversation, and I was like, late at this stage in his career, Westbrook has mostly contributed to losing, and over the last month, that just has not been the case. He's been great, and it seems like they're finding whether that's like allowing him to control the offense more and giving fewer shots to Brad Beal or allowing Brad Beal to just run off ball a little bit more, and then Westbrook just puts pressure on the defense. He seems like he's like fully rejuvenated. He seems like his legs are really under him. I'm excited to watch him in the playing game. Like, it seems kind of tailor-made for a vintage Westbrook performance. As far as like, he's an anomaly in a bunch of ways as far as looking at the totality of his career goes. Like, was so excited about him as a young guy, him and Durant together, but then as that went on, it was they didn't get to a championship again, and then as that went on, it was like, why is he taking up so much of the offense when it should be more Durant? And then with the Houston year and now the Washington, it's just been a weird fizzling, but he's still putting up the numbers, and I think those numbers are, a lot of them are empty, but he's been good, and he's carried them lately, and it's definitely exciting to watch, and especially in a one-game playoff, I'm really excited to see it.
He's weird because he is exciting to watch. He can win a team games. I think his presence like actively prevents a team from going all the way, because I think eventually it's not going to work. Like I don't think 7-game series after 7-game series after 7-game series it can work. I think the most interesting thing is when you're cheering for the team that's playing against him, because when he's going bad, you feel like it's hilarious. Like, how could you ever fear that guy? It's like, oh, he pulled up for a fucking 3. You know, they're up 2. There's 28 seconds left. For some reason, he just pulled up for a 3, 27 feet away. Ha, 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 bad Westbrook. But every other time when he has it, I'm kind of terrified. So I think it would be an interesting first-round series, especially, I don't know if you remember, we had that mailbag question a while ago. If they replaced Ben with Russell Westbrook, would the Sixers be scarier in the playoffs? And I don't know if they would be better, but I think they would definitely be like scarier, if that makes any sense. Like, I think other teams would be like, oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? But Westbrook just seems to always end up shooting his team out of it, I think, at this point. I would love to go back and watch him at his real peak, you know, like the best Oklahoma City years. I feel like they're such a ghost in my mind, what he even looked like at that point. You know, before he became so balled up.
He still has so much burst. He's just he's always had a level of strength and like ferocity and athleticism that nobody else can really parallel. He's not ever the most, he's not Zach LaVine athleticism wise, but I think he's faster and more powerful.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's just, when things are clicking for him, like the way he adjusts and makes things happen in such a short amount of time, in such a small space, it's almost indefensible. And for one game in a one-game playoff with stakes, I kind of hope they beat the shit out of Indiana. That's going to be a fun game.
Well, we've had some bad history with Washington. I don't know if I want to play Washington. I'd almost rather play Indiana in the first round.
Well, I think they'd have to probably still beat Charlotte or Boston afterwards.
Well, Boston seems like they're sort of packing it in, at this point. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. First non-basketball question. Do you have 2 separate trimmers, one for your beard and one for your below the belt area? And do you use the same trimmer for both? This came up recently amongst my friends, and we were split down the middle, 5-5. Some obviously thought it was gross to have just one. The other half thought 2 clippers would be a waste of money.
I don't use the same for both, but I also don't have like beard trimmers. I don't really do beard trimming.
I have 2. I would not use the same. I have 3 trimmers. I have one for my head when I occasionally go through, or like occasionally all of COVID when I just cut my own hair, one for my beard, and then one for the nether regions. And then his other non-basketball question, what movie have you not seen that would be most surprising to people?
You go first.
It's always one of 2. I've never seen The Godfather, and I've never seen Team America World Police.
Okay. I've seen both of those.
That seems, yeah.
I've never seen E.T. And
really?
I feel like I've heard about it enough from everybody all the time that it wouldn't measure up to how people saw it when they were a kid for the first time. So
yeah. I say that about. I haven't watched it in years. In my memory, it's wonderful. I think that happens with Star Wars, and it happens the original Star Wars, and I think it happens with one of my favorites, The Lost Boys. Just doesn't. If you've never seen it before, I don't think you can watch it now and like it. Final question from Heath. Who has the most punchable face in recent Philly sports history? I went with Jared Hughes, plus he sprinted in from the bullpen and sucked after doing so.
Yeah, I mean, I think relievers have a real advantage of having punchable faces.
Well, Papelbon.
Because they also run in. I mean, the running in and the fact that they could so easily come into a game and so easily fuck it up.
Yeah.
It's just very natural to their position. So it'd have to go relievers there. Papelbon's for sure. In the final circle there.
I think you could say that Wentz kind of has a little bit of punchable face.
A lot of people, the tide is starting to turn. Not for me, although he has been certainly worse than normal lately. The tide is starting to turn against Shake in a big way. Still love and believe in Shake and think it's an excellent contract and want to see him succeed because I love all second round picks and I love the skill set, but he has struggled and occasionally and has struggled with on court demeanor, but. I wouldn't punch Shake in the face. I would give Shake $10 million, but other people I could see punching Shake.
I don't ever want to punch him, but he does have that sort of demeanor on the court. Like, it does remind me of Cousins a little bit. Not as temperamental, but like just always seemingly annoyed with something. And I just wish I saw more positive interaction between him and the other players on the team.
I see it. I think there was one Shake celebration to an Embiid thing. There's been Shake and Matisse fun pregame. I think he's engaged. I think he's just like has a very sort of loose vibe, not just sort of like going with the flow. Not getting. I would say not getting too high, too low, but he does get pretty complainy to the refs when he doesn't get the calls.
He does. Yeah, I don't know. I see him. He does seem unhappy a lot of the time. I want him to be happy. Be happy, Shake. Doesn't seem laid back to me. It just seems irritated. I don't know. We'll see. Sunday we will do a pod after the final regular season game, and we'll also be joined by former Liberty Ballers writer and probable noogie receiver, maybe wedgie receiver from Mike, Jake Fisher.
Why am I giving him a noogie or a wedgie?
I don't know. I just sort of feel like that's like your sort of relationship with Jake. Is like you're going to give him a noogie or something.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if I give him a noogie. No, Jake wrote a great book on not just the process, but I would say tanking in general, called Built to Lose. So if you have that or are planning on getting it, then get it, and we'll talk about it for after the pod and do a little bit of something new, a little bit of relitigating, perhaps. Change of pace. Maybe we talk about it. Maybe we talk about what happened. We'll find out. I also want to say just last thing about when I'm obviously in LA and have to do with the national feed. This was a TNT game. Having to lose to the Heat in such a fashion while Marv Albert is like heavy breathing into the mic and also heavy squinting on the court, not knowing what's happening, always guessing wrong who did anything or what the result of any given play is. It's really insult to injury, and I did see that TNT, I guess, fired, or I don't know about fired, but didn't renew Chris Webber's contract. They ended things professionally with them, and if Marv Albert keeps getting a job, I might need to change careers just so I could take his job from him because someone needs to do it. I like Brian Anderson. I think there's a bunch of good announcers that deserve it. Marv Albert should have died in 1998. What are we doing still? Why are we humoring him? Please let him go into a cabin and live out the end of his days. What are we doing?
I don't know why people are so concerned with play-by-play and color guys. I barely even hear them.
It damages the experience. I think Reggie Miller, by the way, who I used to hate, I think he's gotten better. He wasn't great tonight, but I think he has gotten better. And Chris Webber was certainly worse than him, and Mark Jackson is certainly worse than him. But Marv Albert is. I mean, it's just like to listen to someone who's just so constantly not saying the right thing. And you can just imagine he's just riding on the fact that he said Michael Jordan in a cool way like 25 years ago.
He was great.
Yes,
of
course.
Back in the day.
Of course he was great.
Yeah.
Of
Okay.
course.
I just want to be clear.
I don't
okay.
disagree
All
with
right.
that.
Okay.
But that was a long ass time ago, and he
I agree.
needs to just like, God bless yourself, dude. You've made so much money, I'm sure. Retire. Just like it's going to be fine. You can still announce the game to your grandkids or something. Stop. You don't have to do this anymore. Someone tell him that he doesn't have to do it.
He doesn't know what else to do. You do that your whole life. It's like, what would he do? You know?
Hang out.
He do? Me as a New Yorker will always have love for Marv Albert.
Oh, wow.
You know?
There it is. It starts. It begins. I'm fucking podcasting with John Starks.
We'll talk to you Sunday after the final game. Hopefully they're the number 1 seed. Jesus Christ. Win tomorrow. Holy shit. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah.
I won't fuck with you.
Like this.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.